Ghost Story, FENG SHUI WIFE, author Ino. Oh my God, what happened to your arm? My mother took a box of grapes from my hand, shocked to the point of gaping. You just sprained your ankle, and now your arm is broken too? What's going on? Are you planning to join the hospital club? I awkwardly raised my plastered arm. I slipped on the stairs, missed a step, and hit the railing. The sarcastic laughter of my cousin echoed. I told you earlier, Tong Yin can't bear this immense wealth. She's not destined for it. So just after getting married, instead of spraining her ankle, she breaks her arm. There's no solution. Whoever calls for blessings, she can't resist. I rolled my eyes, disdainful of my aunt and cousin's mockery as they invaded my house for dinner. My cousin Tran Lam has always liked to compare herself with me, to see who has higher achievements, whose school is better, who spends more money, and whose dress is prettier. After graduating, I joined a large company, while she got a government position, working in a state-owned enterprise. Since then, my cousin and aunt felt that I had completely lost. Because for a girl, there's no more valuable rice bowl than in the government sector. Until I and Ky Tuyen started dating. Ky Tuyen is my boss, also a famous businessman in our city, a legitimate second-generation rich man. He is truly heaven's darling. The girls in the company pursuing him could line up all the way from here to France. But I don't know why he singled me out. At the beginning of our relationship, my aunt's face was full of worry as she solemnly told my mother, "These rich young masters are all playboys. Don't foolishly let yourself be played unfairly." Then Ky Tuyen solemnly brought his parents to propose to me, and only then did my aunt reluctantly keep quiet. Seeing me glaring at Tran Lam, my aunt seemed somewhat dissatisfied. "Oh, Yin Yin, what's with your attitude? Your aunt is just looking out for you." At the dinner table, my aunt started spouting all sorts of superstitious nonsense, saying that one should never name their children Dragon or Phoenix, especially people from rural areas. Calling someone Dragon or Phoenix would bring about bad luck, as these two words carry too much fate, which ordinary people can't suppress. My aunt also mentioned that in her village, someone who earned a lot of money went to buy a carved bed with 9 dragons, but soon after sleeping on it, they discovered they had cancer. Finally, my aunt shifted the topic, directly pointing her sharp words at me. "Gien Gien, Ky Tuyen's family is too devout to Buddhism, and you're just a small temple. I'm afraid you won't be able to handle it." Every day, my mother's mind was being influenced by my aunt's brainwashing. Seeing my left arm in a cast, her face showed distress. What should we do if she says that? We can't just let the 2 kids get divorced, can we? I could only lament that iron cannot be forged into steel as I stared at my mother. "Mom, what nonsense are you talking about? Haven't you calculated my fate when I was little? The fortune teller said my fate was exceptionally tough, tougher than a cat's. You've forgotten? Your aunt and cousin are just envious admirers, Mom. Don't listen to their dear talking about the forest." My mother wanted to say something else, but I took out a jewelry box from my pocket and slammed it on the table. "Here's yours, Mom. I bought it while strolling the streets in the morning. It's only 4 or 5 tens of thousands. Wear it." My mother caressed the gold bracelet, smiling so happily that she couldn't even see her eyes, while my aunt looked at the bracelet with envy, constantly saying, "Oh, this blessing. I wonder how long it will last." I paid no attention to my aunt's bitter words, ate my food alone, but deep down, I still felt a bit uneasy. Because my aunt wasn't wrong, since I married Ky Tuyen, my health hasn't been good for a single day. First, I developed a rash for no apparent reason. Then, after recovering from the rash, I got pneumonia. Then, I sprained my ankle, broke my arm from a fall, and hit my head. The most serious incident was last month when I was almost hit by a car running a red light. In just 3 short years, I've experienced 81 difficulties and countless visits to the hospital, getting acquainted with doctors from various departments. Could it be true what my aunt said? After the meal, I watched as the driver, Xiao Liu, focused on driving and couldn't help but ask, "Xiao Liu, I remember my mother-in-law used to be really into fortune-telling and stuff. Do you know if she consulted any famous fortune tellers?" My mother-in-law, Li Tung-wit, believes in these things so much that she even built a Buddhist temple in our house. Xiao Liu remained silent, glanced at me, then changed direction and led me to a fortune teller's office. He said this fortune teller is the most famous one in our city, charging a hefty fee. All the wealthy people in the city come to him for readings. The fortune teller was a man in his 50s with a finely groomed beard and a pioneering demeanor. He looked at my birth chart, furrowed his brows, and said, "Your condition, has it been going on for 3 years?" His words echoed those of my aunt, saying it was because I suddenly encountered great fortune, unable to bear it, and now facing consequences. But he said this year is the last year, and as long as I get through it, smooth sailing awaits. He reassured me, saying my fate is resilient, and these are just external disturbances. If I can live through these 3 months, good days are ahead by the end of the year. Hearing this, I felt relieved. Just 3 more months, and my string of misfortunes will finally end? Normally, I don't put much trust in these things, but if I hear good news, I'd rather believe it. When I returned home in a good mood, I noticed that Ky Tuyen, who usually works late, was unexpectedly home early today. Ky Tuyen chuckled mischievously, taking a jewelry box out of his pocket and handing it to me. "For you? Do you like it?" I looked contentedly at this tall, handsome man before me, feeling that even the broken arm from this morning didn't hurt anymore. Ky Tuyen is the perfect husband in every woman's ideal, wealthy, handsome, romantic, gentle. Except for being a bit busy with work, he's truly faultless. After we got married, he told me to resign and become a wealthy housewife, spending our days shopping and enjoying ourselves. Of course, these past few years, I've practically been living in the hospital, but that's due to my own unfortunate luck, nothing to do with Ky Tuyen. Ky Tuyen had already fallen asleep while I comfortably lay on the sofa, applying a face mask, thinking about our passionate love just now, feeling a bit embarrassed. Ky Tuyen's work is so busy, and he often travels around the country for business. The time we can spend together is really not much. But on the 1st and 15th of every month, no matter how busy he is, he always comes home early to spend a romantic night with me. But I also found it strange that our intimacy only happens on the 1st and 15th of each month, like how men in ancient times often visited their wives' chambers on the 1st and 15th day of the lunar month. Thinking so, I felt a chill in my heart, and in an instant, I sat up from the sofa. With Ky Tuyen being so busy, could he possibly be nurturing some mistress or concubine outside? I picked up my mobile phone and started searching for signs of infidelity on various forums frequented by wandering spouses. However, after searching for a while, I came across a peculiar post. Have you ever heard of a feng shui wife? Weak and sickly individuals, if married to someone with a strong fate, can use their spouse to ward off their own bad luck. And the woman who wards off bad luck is called a feng shui wife. Men who marry feng shui wives, their bodies will change from weak and sickly to increasingly strong and healthy. But they have to live with their wives and have intimate relations on the 1st and 15th day of the lunar month, on those days transferring their bad luck and accidents onto their wives. Women considered as feng shui wives helping men ward off calamity absolutely cannot live for more than 3 years. I'm wrapping myself in a soft, thick blanket, but my whole body feels like it's plunging into an icy abyss. Before marrying Ky Tuyen, I always saw him as weak and prone to illness, frequently suffering from headaches and fevers. Though he's 1.8 meters tall, he weighed just over 110 pounds, so thin that a gust of wind could knock him over. But after we got married, he gained weight at a visible rate, his cheeks becoming plump and rosy. And then there's the 1st and 15th of every month. Clearly today, with my arm in a cast, but Ky Tuyen still insists on being intimate with me. Could it be that I'm experiencing these things not because I can't bear this good fortune, but because I'm Ky Tuyen's feng shui wife? The more I think about it, the more fearful I become, and right at this moment, a hand reaches from behind, wrapping around my shoulder. "Darling, it's so late, and you're still not sleeping. What are you looking at?" In my panic, my fingers loosen, and my phone slips onto my lap. Ky Tuyen takes off my face mask, gently brushing my face. "This mask is dry now. Don't sit here foolishly. It's already 10:30. Time to sleep." Ky Tuyen is very concerned about my health, not only instructing the maid to prepare nutritious soups for me every day, but also strictly regulating my work and rest schedule. Exactly at 7 in the morning, he'll wake me up, and he'll definitely tuck me into bed by 10 at night. In the past, when he did these things, I felt extremely sweet, but now I just feel suspicious. Perhaps Ky Tuyen is really exhausted and quickly falls asleep. I lie on the bed, eyes wide open. Scenes from our acquaintance to falling in love quickly flash before my eyes. The Ky family's company is a famous enterprise in our city, where employees not only receive high salaries, but also enjoy excellent benefits. Initially, based on my brief resume, I found it difficult to stand out among the graduates of prestigious universities, and it was tough to pass the selection process or interviews. But when the Ky family recruits, they always require the interviewee to fill in their date of birth. And I, seemingly without any effort, smoothly entered the Ky family's company. Not only did I work there, but I was also elected into Ky Tuyen's assistant team. Ky Tuyen's assistant team, including me, has a total of 7 assistants, 3 males and 4 females. At first, Ky Tuyen didn't show any special affection towards me, until the other members of the assistant team started frequently requesting time off. Some had parents involved in car accidents, needing hospital care. Some were hospitalized due to illness, while others had their houses catch fire and needed to move. All sorts of misfortunes seemed to befall them. I'm the only one who hasn't taken a day off in a year, steadfastly maintaining my position at work. Then Ky Tuyen's gaze towards me began to change drastically. He would buy me high-class dinners when I stayed late at work, take the initiative to drive me home, and even send me a few vague messages after I got home. When he held out a diamond necklace to me, I had a surreal feeling as if I were being hit by a giant meat bun. Even my biological parents said I could be in a relationship with Ky Tuyen, which truly startled the ancestral spirits of my family. "Lazy kitten, get up." Ky Tuyen pulled open the window curtain, the sudden light making it impossible for me to open my eyes. "Please let me sleep a little longer." Yesterday, I worried and tossed and turned for a long time, barely sleeping until nearly dawn, and now I'm really very sleepy. Auntie Lou has prepared breakfast. Early to bed and early to rise makes the body healthy. Get up quickly. Ky Tuyen's voice remained as gentle as ever, but carried an unyielding determination that couldn't be refused. I thought of the post I saw last night, my whole body trembling, suddenly sitting up, feeling awake in an instant. After seeing me quickly finish breakfast with one hand, Ky Tuyen was startled by my demeanor. "Take your time eating. No one is rushing you. In 2 weeks, I'll have to go to France for work. Be obedient at home and take good care of your arm. Don't run around everywhere. Understand?" Ky Tuyen, like an old mother, admonished me several times, and I obediently nodded in agreement. After he left, I immediately went into the bathroom and locked the door, starting to search for yesterday's post. There are cameras installed all over the house, so I have to be careful not to let the Ky family notice. I opened the browsing history and felt a chill in my heart. Yesterday's post had been deleted. I still haven't given up, searching repeatedly and even searching for the keyword feng shui wife a bit, but I couldn't find anything, as if that post had never appeared until now. Could it be that everything from yesterday was just my imagination? Madam, you've been in here for a while. Are you feeling all right? The voice of another nanny, Sister Trung, echoed outside the door, and I stood up from the toilet, pretending to be embarrassed as I looked at Sister Trung. I got so engrossed in the video that my legs fell asleep from sitting too long. Sister Trung chuckled at me, then helped me sit down on the sofa and immediately crouched down to start massaging my calves. Does Madam have any plans for today? I stared at Sister Trung's gentle face as if something had suddenly dawned on me, a speculation I had never had before. Is Sister Trung watching me? Now that I think about it, except for sleeping, I seem to rarely be alone in this mansion. Even during nap times, I'm not free. If I sleep for about an hour, Sister Trung will gently wake me up, cautioning that sleeping too long will cause headaches and affect my nighttime sleep. And during the day, my mother-in-law always likes to pull me into doing this and that. If I spend a little too much time in my bedroom, she won't be pleased. The bedroom is for sleeping. During the day, you should be in the living room so the house doesn't feel empty. The driver and the housekeeper are both elderly people who have been working for the Ky family for many years. On my first day as a bride in the Ky family, my mother-in-law reminded me to treat the household helpers kindly, not to show arrogance in front of them. She said Aunt Lu, Sister Trung are the ones who raised Ky Tuyen. Outwardly, they are helpers, but in reality, they are like family. So even if Sister Trung sometimes makes me feel uncomfortable, I don't dare to say anything. After all, the difference between my family's situation and Ky Tuyen's is truly too vast. In this house, I should be a bit cautious. Once the seed of suspicion is planted, it will take root and sprout, breaking through the soil and growing. Ky Tuyen, my mother-in-law, Sister Trung, Aunt Lu, and even the driver, Little Lu, each of them seems to have many suspicious aspects. Each one of them could be involved in this, and their main purpose is to make me obediently act as the feng shui wife for 3 years. Until the end of the 3-year period, I will replace Ky Tuyen in warding off disasters and die. I took out my mobile phone, suddenly remembering that this phone was also a gift from Ky Tuyen. Clothes, jewelry, shoes, mobile phones, everything I have, if not given by Ky Tuyen, then bought by my mother-in-law. I used to think of myself as a full-time, free, and wealthy wife, but now looking back, I actually resemble more of a puppet on strings. And those strings are tightly held in the hands of Ky Tuyen and my mother. Sister Trung, I want to go out for a walk. Sister Trung immediately stood up, smiling gently at me. The weather is nice today. Madam should go out for a walk. I'll immediately call Tilu to arrange the car to take Madam. Would you like to go to Leido Shopping Center or Vun Duan Shopping Center? I looked up at Sister Trung solemnly. So it turns out that in the past, wherever I went, it was all arranged by Sister Trung. I instructed Tilu to take me directly to my birth mother's house. Seeing me return, my mother, though seemingly happy, couldn't stop nagging. Oh my, you're still going out every day, even with a broken arm. Is there anyone who gets married and acts like you, running back to your birth mother's house every day? Luckily, your in-laws' house is comfortable. Oh, there's no family better than the Ky family. I've heard these words so many times that they've become like needles in my ears. I impatiently waved my hand. Mom, do you know any fortune-telling stalls around here? My mother's eyes lit up. She held my hand tightly. Oh my, finally, you're willing to believe in these things. Although what Aunt said sounds a bit harsh, there is still some truth to it. We may not be able to endure all of this blessing, but we can find a great master to help us alleviate some of it, right? My mother babbled on for half a day, finally took out her mobile phone very cautiously and showed me a photo. See, Aunt was right. This master is the best fortune teller in the city. The stalls in our park are all scams. I stared at the photo on my mother's mobile phone. This familiar bearded man is undoubtedly the great master Tiolu took me to see yesterday. It's as if there's an invisible net surrounding me in layers, preventing me from escaping, struggling but unable to break free. I looked at my mother's latest phone, cleared my throat, and noticed my voice sounded hoarse. Mom, is this phone also a gift from Ky Tuyen to you? My mother laughed until her mouth couldn't close, slapped her thigh heavily, her whole face full of satisfaction. Oh my son-in-law is really something. Even with a whole electronic city under his control, he still can't spend money recklessly like this. Don't mention me and your father. Even Aunt's house has a mobile phone. Your uncle and aunt, they're all given by your son-in-law. Mom, I still have some work. You go ahead. I stumbled out of the house, momentarily unsure of where to go. After marrying Ky Tuyen, he didn't like me meeting my old friends, saying I was now the wife of the Ky family and had to pay attention to my social relationships. Gradually, my life was no longer anyone else's but the Ky family's. Seeing my pale complexion, Tioluk worriedly asked if I wanted to go to the hospital. I stared at his square Dian-shaped face and suddenly came up with an idea. There's a road leading to the reservoir behind the village. Very difficult to traverse. Not only is the road narrow, but there are also many potholes, especially after rain. Those potholes are filled with mud. People unfamiliar with the road conditions there can easily get stuck in the mud while driving, and it rained all night yesterday. I want to go to the reservoir to enjoy the scenery. It's been a while since I've been there. As predicted, the tires indeed got stuck in the mud. Tioluk got out of the car and struggled for a while, then opened the car door in frustration. Madam, perhaps we need to call a tow truck. I'll arrange another car to take you home first. Please wait a moment. I waved indifferently. It's okay. I'll take a taxi. I'll go to Late Do for afternoon tea. Just let Mr. Thu arrange a car to pick me up at Late Do. Tioluk readily agreed without suspecting that I wouldn't be there. After getting in the taxi, I intentionally told the driver to take me to an internet cafe. As soon as I turned on the computer, I began searching for the phrase "Feng Shui Wife." I found it. The title of the post was the same as before, but the ID was different. However, this time I didn't bother investigating the name. Instead, I quickly scrolled down, took a screenshot, and saved it, then started to examine the details. I had just reached "Feng Shui Wife only has 3 years" when the screen flickered and the post disappeared again. I sat up straight in my chair, took a few deep breaths, and felt my heartbeat gradually slow down. As I predicted, some people were frantically deleting the post. As soon as the "Feng Shui Wife" post appeared, it would quickly be deleted. This time, I was lucky too. Less than 3 minutes after the blogger posted, I saw it. I opened the image and began to read each word of this post. The most important step for a Feng Shui wife is in the last 3 months. The one who marries a Feng Shui wife must find a way for the wife to get pregnant within these 3 months. After becoming pregnant, the man needs to engage in intimate relations with his pregnant wife 7 times. Homophonic with pregnant is considered auspicious. After the wife becomes pregnant, they will transition from a Feng Shui wife to a fate-changing wife. After the completion of the 7 times, the man will transfer most of his negative energy and misfortune in life to his wife and the unborn child. The wife and the fetus will die painfully within the next 3 days. 1 body, 2 lives. Only then can this process truly be completed. The man will also permanently rid himself of misfortune and bad luck in life. thereby ascending to new heights, which is extremely valuable. In the last 3 months, pregnancy and the 7 times intercourse are both indispensable conditions in the process of transition. Once the process fails, everything needs to start over from scratch, and the man also needs to find a new feng shui wife. The post may be short, but it took me an hour to read it all. I really want to tell myself that all of this is nonsense, like feng shui wives and fate-changing wives. This whole thing is so absurd that it's laughable. But why have Ky Tuyen and I been married for almost 3 years, yet my belly hasn't budged despite not using any contraceptive measures? Ky Tuyen and my mother-in-law have never mentioned children. My mother-in-law even comforts me, saying we're still young and don't need to worry about having children. I'm only 26, but Ky Tuyen is already 33. Thinking about the vitamins I've been taking daily sends a chill down my spine. Perhaps those aren't just ordinary vitamins? Starting from last month, my mother-in-law switched my medication. She said these medications are only moderately effective. She found a better and more expensive type and instructed me to take it daily. At that time, I was still touched by my mother-in-law's care and comfort, but now looking back, everything seems to have been planned in advance. I furrowed my brows. I'm truly stunned. I've been married to Ky Tuyen for almost 3 years, yet my trust in him cannot compare to that of a random post from a stranger. Upon returning home, I was surprised to find Ky Tuyen, who should have been on a business trip to France, back home early. When he saw me, he handed me the usual beautiful and luxurious diamond bracelet. Are you happy? For the next 3 months, I won't go anywhere. I plan to stay home with you. I looked up bewilderedly at this handsome and seemingly gentle man. 3 months? Ky Tuyen gently pinched my cheek. Yes, 3 months? Are you happy? Holmes once said, "There is only one truth in this world. When you have eliminated the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth." I couldn't believe there could be so many coincidences in the world, though the post seemed a bit exaggerated. Everything mentioned in it was consistent with what had happened to me. I wrapped my arms around Ky Tuyen's waist, burying my face in his chest. After a few days of absence, his chest felt firmer than ever. Yes, I'm so happy. Overjoyed to the point of madness. Today isn't the 1st or the 15th, but my ovulation day. Ky Tuyen chose to come back on this special day, which explains a lot. Tonight, Ky Tuyen was evidently more enthusiastic than before. After the passionate conclusion, he placed a pillow under my waist. "Ngin ngin, it's time for us to have a child." I cautiously nodded, obedient and compliant as always. "I'll follow your lead." My compliance pleased Ky Tuyen greatly. After stroking my hair, he reached into his wallet and pulled out a black card to give to me. "Take this and buy yourself some handbags, clothes, and accessories." I calmly took the card and tucked it into my purse. This was the money for my livelihood, so I had to handle it carefully. The next morning, Ky Tuyen got up early to go to work. Not long after I finished breakfast, Ky Tuyen diligently brought a bowl of bird's nest soup. "Ma'am, please drink this quickly. This is the best bird's nest soup. It won't taste good when it's cold." "Just leave it there. I've just finished eating." Ky Tuyen moved the bird's nest soup in front of me, her tone gentle but firm. "Ma'am, you'd better drink it while it's still hot." My eyes darkened. Something wasn't right with Ky Tuyen today. The small bowl of bird's nest soup was placed in an exquisite white porcelain bowl, the red and white colors contrasting each other, making it very eye-catching. I pretended to be unhappy and glanced at Ky Tuyen. "I really feel uncomfortable. I told you I didn't want to drink anymore." After saying that, I stood up, held the bowl of bird's nest soup, drank it in one gulp, then turned and left without looking at Ky Tuyen. As I left, I could feel Ky Tuyen's eyes fixed on me, like a beam of light shining straight on my back. There was definitely something wrong with this bowl of bird's nest soup. I quickly walked into the bathroom and tried to vomit out all the bird's nest soup into the toilet. After wiping my mouth, I returned to the living room and noticed Ky Tuyen's eyes still staring at me. Wherever I went, her gaze followed. When I sat in front of the sofa and turned on the TV, Ky Tuyen glanced at the pendulum clock on the wall. What was she waiting for? I suspected, so I closed my eyes and pretended to sleep. After seeing me asleep, Ky Tuyen breathed a sigh of relief. She came close to me, shook me gently. Ma'am. I kept my eyes closed, motionless. Ky Tuyen even pinched me hard, seeing no reaction from me. She then felt relieved and took out her mobile phone to make a call. She's asleep now. Come pick her up. I felt myself being lifted onto a narrow bed, and then two people came to lift that bed onto a vehicle. Both the car and the bed smelled strongly of disinfectant. I knew it was the hospital's ambulance. Why were they taking me to the hospital? I closed my eyes to pretend to be asleep, trying to listen carefully to the sounds around me. The lady owner is actually quite good. Huh? Ky Tuyen, you're getting old, talking more than usual. Tiulu spoke coldly, his words carrying a strong warning. Ky Tuyen fell silent for a moment, then no one spoke again. I didn't know how long the car had been running. I was almost shaken to the point of falling asleep before the car slowly stopped. People moved around me, and I felt like I was being pushed into an elevator, then out of the elevator and into another room. A wealthy person like that, even for a simple embryo transplant, still needs to be put under general anesthesia. That's right, it's just a minor surgery, about 10 minutes. Luckily she's thin, otherwise we wouldn't be able to move her. The two young nurses muttered a few words to each other. Then they transferred me to the operating table, removed my pants, and placed my legs on a machine. I wanted to jump off the operating table and run away, but doing so would only alert the enemy. I remembered that when I first married Ky Tuyen, my mother-in-law enthusiastically arranged for me to have a comprehensive health checkup, including endoscopy and ovarian endoscopy. Perhaps they had secretly taken my eggs back then? So now, this embryo transfer surgery could be arranged so easily. The Ky family had been arranging this game for a long time. I endured the discomfort, tried to relax my muscles, and allowed the doctor to insert a tube into my body. The whole process was very quick, only taking 3 to 5 minutes. The nurses covered me with a blanket and pushed me into another room. Madam, it's done. The surgery was successful. Madam can rest assured. Ky Tuyen hung up the phone, quietly staying beside me. Not long after, someone else arrived, pushing my bed onto a vehicle. Madam, wake up! Don't sleep anymore. You've been asleep all morning. Wake up for lunch, wake up. I impatiently pushed Ky Tuyen's hand away. Stop making noise. Let me sleep for a while. Madam, it's already 11:30. I suddenly sat up, surprised to see the clock on the wall, pretending to be startled by the time. Strange, I slept really well last night, but somehow I slept all morning. I locked myself in the bathroom, turned on the faucet, the sound of water masking my desperate cries. Loving each other for 3 years and always getting along with my in-laws, it was all just an illusion. I wiped the tears from my face and forced a smile. Surely, if a handsome, wealthy, gentle, and kind man somehow falls in love with you when you have nothing, then his purpose is only to destroy you. The cake doesn't just fall from the sky, it's just a trap falling down. It's time for Cinderella to wake up from the dream of being married into a wealthy family. For years, the Ky family has been fully prepared to rid me of my existence. No wonder my aunt and cousin always used to say I was unlucky. I remember my aunt's actions were arranged by my mother-in-law. They wanted me to believe that all my misfortunes were due to my lack of luck rather than being a feng shui wife. In the following days, I stayed at home watching movies as usual. Feeling bored, then went to the beauty salon and to the shopping center to buy clothes and bags. Life went on as usual, and no one noticed anything wrong with me. It's just that there's a mobile phone quietly lying under the toilet in my bathroom. Every day I hide this phone in a different place, in the bathroom, bedroom, living room, kitchen, and even in the garden. But today, that silent phone finally received an email. It's from the person who wrote the article about the feng shui wife last time. I had sent him a few private messages and asked him how to solve the problem. The email wasn't long, just a few lines, but after reading it, I felt chills down my spine. The process of choosing a feng shui wife is very strict. First, we need to select 7 people with very solid horoscopes and place them in a place with strong feng shui negative energy. These people are affected by evil spirits every day, and over time, various problems will arise. 6 of them will go through widowhood, infertility, loneliness, suicide, disability, and death. And the only one who is peaceful and innocent is the feng shui wife. I sat curled up in the corner, biting my lip, and before I could realize it, tears were streaming down my face. There really were widowhood, loss of parents, loneliness, loss of children, disability, and death. The Ky family is truly cruel. Mrs. Trung was in a car accident. Mrs. Lu's husband passed away from cancer, and Teodung's parents both fell into the river while on vacation, leaving her alone in the family. As for Mr. Trun, his son wasn't careful and fell out of the balcony window while playing in the living room. Everyone died on the spot. As for the young and beautiful Miss Tun, she was shot in the eye by a child with a rubber bullet, which left her blind in one eye, with a broken leg and limping. Mr. Chu also accidentally caused a fire while having a barbecue at home, and since he was renting a house, not only did he burn down the landlord's house, but he also destroyed several neighboring houses. He ended up owing a huge amount of compensation, but he probably won't be able to repay it in his lifetime. Colleagues who used to be close day and night ended up like this. At that time, there was talk in our office that our office had bad feng shui, and after a colleague had an accident, I visited and gave them money. But after marrying Ky Tuyen, he prevented us from contacting each other. To keep Ky Tuyen alive, the lives of the 7 of us had to be sacrificed in this way. Ky Tuyen's life is his, so isn't our life ours? The method of breaking the feng shui wife's fate mentioned in the email is very simple. But after breaking the fate, Ky Tuyen will become a weak and trouble-prone guy again. I wiped my face, deleted the email, and walked out of the bathroom with an indifferent face. In order to break this situation, I have to find those 6 people, burn their hair to ashes, mix it with my finger blood, and give it to Ky Tuyen to drink every day. Drinking continuously for 10 days will solve the feng shui wife problem. During this time, I must not let the Ky family suspect me. Miss Tun, are you okay? I couldn't believe the old lady in thick black-rimmed glasses in front of me was Miss Tun. She used to be so beautiful, stylish and slender. Wherever she went, she was the center of attention. But now, she casually wears a black jacket, with sunken cheeks, looking 10 years older. Especially her left eye, the artificial eyeball, makes her face look somewhat bizarre. Mrs. Ky, what do you want from me? Miss Tun was a bit impatient, lighting a cigarette, taking a deep drag, in an elegant posture, as if she smoked regularly. My heart felt like a heavy rock. Miss Tun must have had a very hard time for the past few years. I also don't remember what I said to her before leaving. I pulled Miss Tun back, hugged her, and seized the opportunity to cut a lock of her hair. When hugged by me, she stood still motionless for a long time. Tongyin, don't come to me anymore. I don't want to see those people again. I don't want anyone to see me like this, she said as she limped away, leaving me with a desolate, solitary figure. In the following days, I tried my best every day to avoid the driver Tiolu and arranged to meet with my old colleagues again. Finally, on Saturday, my mother-in-law seemed a bit unhappy. Why have you been going out every day recently? You're going out too much, she remarked. Stay at home today. You're not going anywhere, she commanded. My heart sank. Did my mother-in-law suspect that there was something wrong with me? But today, I had an appointment with Trun. Only by obtaining a lock of Trun's hair could I start my plan. Mom, isn't it boring for me to stay at home all the time? I just went out for a walk, I countered. My mother-in-law narrowed her eyes at me, her attitude extremely stern, refusing to let me leave the house. After getting married, I always played the role of a good wife and mother. If I were to follow my previous personality, I would immediately agree not to go out. But I really didn't want to miss this opportunity. After Trun's 7-year-old son died, his wife went insane. Trun hired a nanny to take care of his wife at home. To cover living expenses, he had to work extra hours delivering food. I had made several appointments with him, but he always claimed to be too busy to find the time. Mom? Don't say anything more. Mom wants to eat the caramelized pork you make. Stay home and cook rice, she interrupted. As we were in a deadlock, Ky Tuyen returned. Why are you two glaring at each other? He asked. When he heard me say I wanted to go out, Ky Tuyen smiled. I have a dinner party tonight. Come with me. In the afternoon, I'm also free. We can go choose a beautiful dress together, he suggested. Hearing Ky Tuyen wanting to take me out shopping, my mother-in-law's expression softened a bit. Although I was worried inside, I didn't show it on my face. Instead, I pretended to be very happy and walked up to Ky Tuyen, holding his hand tightly. Are you not working today? You have time to go shopping with me? I followed Ky Tuyen out of the door, and indeed, he accompanied me to the shopping center to buy clothes. Just when I was getting impatient, Ky Tuyen's phone rang. After he finished the call, he looked at me with some difficulty. Darling, there's something going on at the company. Can you go ahead and stroll around by yourself? This was truly divine intervention. After Ky Tuyen left, I found Trun. It took a lot of effort, but I finally managed to get a handful of Trun's hair. Today was truly a stressful and tense day. In the evening, after returning home, I was so exhausted that I didn't even want to move a finger. Ky Tuyen drank a lot of alcohol and soon fell asleep, not even having time to shower. I took the hair I had painstakingly collected over the past week, carefully placed it in a ceramic bowl, and set it on fire. As I mixed this ash with my blood, a series of eerie bubbles emerged in the glass jar, filling the room with a foul stench. I pinched my nose as I poured the mixture into Ky Tuyen's mouth, silently lamenting my situation. This smell is too foul. It's fortunate that Ky Tuyen is drunk today. Otherwise, as soon as I poured it into his mouth, he would have woken up immediately. Ky Tuyen frowned and waved his hand, nearly knocking over my water bottle. I hurriedly put away the container and lay down beside him, pretending to be asleep. The next day, after Ky Tuyen got up and went to work as usual, I obediently stayed at home with my mother-in-law arranging flowers. Nyin, Tuyen is not young anymore. You two should have children by now, my mother-in-law suggested, her hands busy arranging flowers while her gaze subtly glanced at my stomach. I nodded in agreement. Mom, we're seriously preparing to conceive. I glanced down at my flat stomach. My menstrual cycle was always regular, but this time it was late. If I guessed correctly, I was pregnant now. This poor child wasn't born out of parental expectation. Even before the child was born, their father had arranged a tragic fate for them. Initially, I intended to keep this news from my mother-in-law, but moments later, as Mrs. Truong finished cleaning the bathroom and walked out, her face filled with urgency as she asked me, "Madam, has your menstrual cycle for this month arrived?" Snap! My mother-in-law accidentally snapped off a branch of hydrangea, her sharp eyes immediately shooting towards me. I stared blankly at Mrs. Truong, my face revealing a hint of confusion. It indeed hasn't arrived yet. Let me think about the date of my last cycle, I replied. Mrs. Truong clapped her hands excitedly, Her face flushed as she looked at me. "You're definitely pregnant. Your menstrual cycle is always regular. According to the time, your period should have come the day before," she exclaimed. The room suddenly became chaotic. My mother-in-law hurried into her prayer room to pray, constantly instructing Mrs. Truong to brew tonic herbs for me. Others came in and out, as if I were about to give birth at any moment. I sat on the sofa, observing the bustling scene, feeling an infinite sadness welling up inside me. If Ky Tuyen and I were just an ordinary couple, how much better it would be. In the evening, Ky Tuyen returned home drunk again. He rarely drank on weekdays, but this time he had been continuously drinking for 2 days, which was truly unusual. He carefully took out a jewelry box and handed it to me. When I opened it, I found an exquisitely crafted amulet inside. "My dear wife, thank you for these past few years. I hope this amulet will keep you and our son safe and sound for the rest of your lives, free from illness and misfortune," Ky Tuyen said solemnly, pulling me to sit on the sofa and kneeling down in front of me, his eyes filled with reverence. At that moment, I even thought that he loved me. I reached out to touch his face, which had once captivated me endlessly, feeling the pain in my heart with each beat. "Ky Tuyen, do you truly love me?" I asked. Ky Tuyen didn't answer me. He lay heavily on my lap, already fast asleep, peaceful and unguarded. I struggled to move him onto the sofa, then opened the bottle of water and poured the diluted blood into his mouth without hesitation. In the following days, Ky Tuyen came home drunk every day. It was only after asking my mother-in-law that I found out the company had been discussing a crucial project lately, and the person in charge of the project from the partner company wouldn't be happy without alcohol. To win over this client, the Ky Tuyen's team would have to keep drinking for another week. It was a timely coincidence, almost as if fate wanted me to resolve everything. Finally, the last day had come, and Ky Tuyen was still unconscious on the bed. I looked at his handsome face, unable to understand why I hesitated to act. After today, Ky Tuyen would no longer be the illustrious young master of the Ky family. His body would rapidly weaken, and the company he managed would constantly encounter misfortune and accidents. Would he ever smile again? It was a bit regrettable, as he had the most beautiful smile in the world. I tightly covered Ky Tuyen's mouth, closed my eyes, and let tears trickle down my face. Bang! The door was pushed open, and my mother-in-law saw the vial in my hand, her eyes almost bursting with rage. "You wretch! How dare you!" she exclaimed. Threatened by her, my hand trembled, causing the vial to tilt slightly to the side. Meanwhile, Ky Tuyen shook his head and in that moment managed to drink the last few drops of blood. "Ah! My son!" My mother-in-law rushed forward, pushing me away and embracing Ky Tuyen, trying to pry his mouth open. Ky Tuyen was startled awake by her actions, reluctantly opening his eyes and sitting up. "Mom, what are you doing?" he asked. "Thwap!" My mother-in-law slapped me across the face, her expression fierce, her eyes filled with such malice that it seemed like she wanted to devour me. "Speak quickly. What day is it?" she demanded. I fell to the ground, covering my face, staring coldly at her as she went mad. "Useless. He has already consumed it." "This is the 10th day. He has been drinking for 10 days straight," I replied. "The spell to control his wife's fate has been broken." Ky Tuyen trembled, his eyes suddenly clear. He reached out to embrace his mother, who was about to attack me. "Mom, this is my fate. We must accept it," he said. "Accept what? Do you want your mother to watch you die? You will die!" My mother-in-law wailed, holding on to Ky Tuyen and crying silently, tears streaming down her face. Upon hearing that, I raised my head. "What do you mean, Ky Tuyen is going to die?" I exclaimed. The email clearly stated that Ky Tuyen would become sickly, afflicted with numerous ailments and misfortunes, but it didn't say he would die. Yes, he's going to die. Once the feng shui is broken, his body will decay within 3 days, suffering all the pain before death. Are you satisfied now? my mother-in-law cried out, her voice hoarse from shouting. After her tirade, she collapsed to the ground, her heart aching too much for words. I couldn't believe it as I looked at Ky Tuyen. He was going to die? Mom, can you let Tung Yin and I talk privately for a few minutes? Ky Tuyen requested. Chi Trung escorted my mother-in-law out, and after locking the door, he came to me and hugged me tightly. You did well, darling, he said softly. Everything that had just happened left me speechless. I looked up at Ky Tuyen, not knowing how to react. He looked at me gently, reaching out to wipe away the tears from my eyes, then weakly smiled at me. That email and the post, I sent them both, he confessed. Yin Yin, you're truly a smart girl, and you did great. Finally, I'm free. Thank you. Ky Tuyen explained that he had known since childhood that his health was poor, his life cursed. The fortune teller had predicted he wouldn't live past the age of 9. To prolong his life, his parents had relentlessly sought someone to protect him from disasters, while borrowing the lifespans and fortunes of others. His best friend, the girl he once loved, all suffered because of him, unintentionally dying. He dared not make friends or fall in love anymore, but in college, he still loved a girl. So he had weaknesses and no longer had the courage to commit suicide. He revealed that he had tried to kill himself many times but had failed. Later, his parents had used the threat of his loved ones to intimidate him. If he died, they would bury those people with him. Ky Tuyen placed his hand on my belly, smiling with immense joy. Yin Yin, you're carrying our child, so they won't harm you for now. And I, finally, can end this burdensome life. Don't worry, I've arranged everything for you. After my unfortunate incident, the entire Ky family will suffer retribution, he assured me. Ky Tuyen presented a document outlining the terms of the agreement clearly. Ky Tuyen said that as long as we parted ways, his retaliation would not affect me. He had arranged everything for me abroad and left me with a lifetime's worth of money. There, his parents would not find me, and I could live a comfortable life, waiting for his parents to pass away before returning home. Nguyen, when the time comes, leave this baby behind. Don't let it affect your life. You deserve a brighter and more vibrant future, he added. Tears streamed down my face as thoughts raced through my mind. Many doubts from before now answered. No wonder everything went so smoothly for me. No wonder my mother-in-law didn't let me go out the last time. Ky Tuyen appeared to help me escape. Was he actually sober during this time? So every day, I gave him medicine, and he always remained sober. He lied about being drunk after the feng shui was broken. He said he wouldn't die, only become weaker and more unlucky. How did he feel when he drank the prepared medicine? Have you met your colleagues at work? If so, you should know that people like me don't deserve to live, Ky Tuyen said, embracing me as if he wanted to immerse me in his blood and bones. The Ky family's lights were on all night, and the retaliation was faster than I had imagined. Ky Tuyen spat out each gulp of fresh blood, then quickly fell into unconsciousness. My mother-in-law didn't leave his side for a moment, instructing the driver, Xiao Liu, to watch over me. But Xiao Liu secretly took me to the airport with fake identification and a passport in my suitcase. Madam, please leave quickly, he urged. The plane was about to take off, but I remained seated, unmoving. Xiao Liu was in such a rush that sweat kept pouring down his forehead. If you don't leave now, you'll lose your life after giving birth, he exclaimed. I looked deeply at Xiao Liu, then immediately grabbed my suitcase and left. The plane flew for 10 hours, during which I cried for 10 hours straight. By the end, my eyes were swollen and my tears had long dried up. As soon as the plane landed, I opened my mobile phone to find a letter quietly nestled in my email. Nguyen, I'm leaving now. I hope in the next life we can still be husband and wife. On that day when you asked me, I sincerely answered you. I still love you. Loved you in the past, love you now, and will love you in the future. Epilogue. Ky Tuyen's retaliation was extremely severe. He couldn't even last a day and passed away that very night. As Ky Tuyen predicted, the Ky family's company faced continuous unexpected challenges, lawsuits, and constant troubles. I was sitting by the Rhine River, drinking tea, while my mobile phone kept showing news related to the Ky family. Father Ky fell ill and had to be hospitalized, and the messy situation was all handed over to Mother Ky to manage. At first glance, the old and frail mother-in-law Ky seemed different from her elegant and sophisticated past self. "You're from China. Why are you here in England?" a young girl standing across from me asked. I looked up to see a slightly excited young girl. "I came here to read books, and I saw you sitting here drinking tea with such a beautiful posture. Can I draw a picture for you?" she asked. I nodded and stood up, causing the young girl to startle. "Wow, your belly is so big. How many months pregnant are you? I didn't even notice you were pregnant," she exclaimed. I gently placed my hand on my belly and smiled. "For years, we've been a pair of phoenixes." The end.